Dexter Morgan lived by a very strict code which was given to him by his father. But there were many times that he broke that code and showed emotions that he once seemed to be incapable of experiencing. Starting off with the most obvious instance, his relationship with Rita Bennett. Dexter's relationship with Rita began as a facade created to make him seem more normal. To everyone else, Rita was Dexter's sweet, simplistic girlfriend. After her marriage to Paul Bennett, an abusive drug addict with a criminal record, she was just emotionally scarred enough as a woman to overlook Dexter's emotional unavailability. This made her very unlikely to demand much intimacy from Dexter and more naive than most of the women he would date. Rita was the perfect cover to conceal Dexter's hidden life as an active serial killer. But as time went on, what started out as a relationship of convenience evolved into something much more real. Despite believing himself to be incapable of genuine emotion or connection, Dexter found that he truly cared for Rita and her children. He started to value the comfort and stability their relationship brought into his life, even as he struggled to find a balance between his innate darkness and his desire to be with Rita and the kids. Eventually, Rita got pregnant, and Dexter proposed to her without really knowing how or what it would mean for his future. He wanted to embrace his new role as a husband and father, making sure that he could keep Rita, Aster, Cody, and their unborn child in his life. But even after they were married and started raising the children together, Dexter continued killing. He believed he could keep both his life as a murderer and his life as a family man separate. However, that fantasy fell apart when Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer, murdered Rita in their very own home. Dexter looked up to Arthur in a way. He thought that there was something he could learn from the killer about juggling a family life and life as a killer, but it turned out that Trinity was almost as abusive in his own house as he was in the streets.
I am so thankful for you, Arthur.
Shut up, cunt.
Dexter witnessed him terrorize his own family on Thanksgiving. He called his wife terrible names and broke his son's finger for damaging his car. Dexter also learned that Arthur was locking his daughter in her room whenever he thought it was necessary. After that, Dexter was forced to confront the fact that his double life as a killer and a family man would always endanger the people he loved. This was why he usually kept everyone at arm's length. He was never looking to form deep bonds with the people around him, not only because it was difficult for him, but because he wanted to remain undetected and discreet. Rita helped him blend in, just like Harry always taught him to do. But when he actually started to care about, maybe even love, Rita, Dexter was very much out of his depth. His persona almost demanded that he be private, isolated, and alone. So choosing to stay with Rita in such a permanent way, having a child with her, and sticking around to try and raise the kids showed that maybe he was capable of much more. Not entirely, of course. He did continue to lie to her and kill people, but the mere attempt on Dexter's part to start a family with Rita was incredibly out of character for him. And his relationship with Rita had already compromised his character well before her untimely death. But there was another time before Rita's death that Dexter broke character. By season 3, Dexter was well ingratiated into Rita's family. He had successfully tricked Rita into believing almost anything he told her, and she was just naive enough to buy it all. But deeper than his love for her naivety was his concern for the well-being of her children, Aster and Cody. In season 2, we see him risk his life and almost die to save the kids. After his crazy ex, Lila, kidnapped Aster and Cody and tried to kill them in a fire, Dexter came to their rescue. He broke a window to get them to safety and help them escape almost certain death. Dexter was too large to fit through the window himself and was forced to find a wall weakened by the fire to get out before it was too late. We see him break character in this instance as he prioritized their lives over his, which he wouldn't do for almost anyone else. Dexter clearly cared for Aster and Cody as if they were his own. He didn't want to see them in any danger if he could help it. So when he caught a strange man approaching Aster in the grocery store, he felt a strong urge to intervene. The man stopped Aster under the guise of needing help finding the cereal aisle, but anyone would be able to recognize the fact that no grown man would seek the help of a random child for finding a particular item in a store. Dexter's heightened senses were not necessary to see that this man was a creep, When Dexter came upon the man talking with Astor, he instantly sensed that something was off about the man. He made it clear through his mannerisms and tone that he wanted the man to leave immediately.
Aisle 3, other side of the store.
Ah, thanks.
Giving Astor one more look over, the man did leave, but that wouldn't be the last time he followed her. A few days later, Dexter, Rita, Astor, and Cody were all having fun at the beach in Miami, and who should be there with a camera but the very same creepy man. That was enough for Dexter to target him. Even as Dexter was going through his own personal trials, he knew that the man was worth tracking and decided from that point forward to keep him on his radar. He searched the man by his license plate and found out his name, Nathan Martin. He then discovered that Nathan had already been to prison for his pedophilic tendencies. Even still, he was not a killer. This meant that Dexter could not kill him under Harry's code. After all, Dexter only kills other killers, murderers of the innocent. But Nathan posed a grave threat to others despite not being a killer outright. He made the mistake of targeting children. More specifically, Dexter's children. Dexter has always had a soft spot for children. In the pilot episode, the first kill he carries out is against a church choir director who was discovered to have been assaulting and murdering young boys. Additionally, Dexter Original Sin further showed this point when Dexter chose to save a young boy who was under threat rather than indulge his urge to kill the man who tried to kill the child. It's well established that Dexter, a serial killer who rarely feels anything for anyone, does care about children. This is most likely because he was victimized as a child himself after seeing his mother murdered in front of him at the ripe age of 3. So naturally, after Dexter caught Nathan Martin taking pictures of Astor in order to fulfill his sick desires, he broke into his house and strangled him to death. Rita was pregnant at the time as well, and Dexter is incredibly protective as a father. Sensing the threat that Nathan and people like him could pose to his children, even his then unborn son Harrison, Dexter felt he had a responsibility to eliminate him. Nathan didn't technically fit the code, but Dexter created his own code in that instance, one in which he could kill anyone who was a threat to his family, even if they were not actually a killer. A rare kill for Dexter. Nathan Martin became the first of the few people without blood on their hands that Dexter would knowingly take out, but he wouldn't be the last. Within the bounds of this newly revised code, one where Dexter could take out anyone who posed a threat to his loved ones, Maria LaGuerta became fair game. Maria was always hard on Deb, and Dexter was annoyed at her sexual advances towards him in season 1.
How'd you get to be so smart?
But it wasn't until she began looking into Dexter that he set his sights on her. Maria had a deeply personal relationship with Sergeant Dokes. She knew Dokes better than anyone at Miami Metro. They were once partners on the force, not to mention that Dokes used to be her boyfriend. They even almost moved in together. So when Dokes was penned as the Bay Harbor Butcher, Maria never believed it. She knew better. After James's death, the case was closed and everyone in the department moved on, everyone except Maria. But for a while, she dropped the matter, knowing that it was a lost cause and no one would back her up. She continued building her career at Miami Metro and focused on other homicide cases. That is, until she discovered a bloodslide at the crime scene for Travis Marshall's death. Bloodslides were the signature of the Bay Harbor Butcher, but that fact was never released to the public.
The Bay Harbor Butcher kept blood slides, was never released to the public.
So finding a slide at a crime scene so many years later reinvigorated her determination to clear her friend James Dokes' name. The police knew that the butcher was an employee at Miami Metro, and they also knew that the killer used a boat to dispose of his victims. So Maria started looking into anyone who worked on the force and owned a boat. That list included a few people, even her old boss, former Captain Thomas Matthews, but more importantly, one Dexter Morgan. Maria knew if Dexter was the butcher, he would have had ample motive to kill Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer. After all, the butcher was known to only kill other killers. She also knew that he had ample opportunity because he was at the church the night Travis died, doing a final forensic sweep. Maria knew that James always had a bad feeling about Dexter, and the beef they had would have given Dexter reason enough to frame and maybe even kill Dokes. All of this paired with the fact that Deb was seen filling a gas can 20 minutes before the church that Travis Marshall was found in burned to the ground. This solidified Maria's belief that Dexter was probably the actual Bay Harbor Butcher. Maria figured that Dexter had framed Dokes and killed him so James couldn't point the finger back at him and prove his innocence. She never learned of Lila West's involvement in killing Dokes. After all, what other explanation could there be for the bloodslide to be at the church or Deb filling up a gas can at that exact time? It was obvious to Maria that Dexter was the butcher and Dokes was indeed innocent. So she planned to catch Dexter in the act. To do this, she pushed for an early release of Hector Estrada, one of the men that murdered Dexter's mother. Maria knew that Dexter wouldn't be able to resist killing Estrada to avenge his mother, but Dexter figured it out just as he was preparing to kill Estrada. Estrada let it slip that Maria was the one who helped him get out of jail early.
That fucking cop bitch, the one who got me out.
And Dexter immediately connected the dots. He escaped by the skin of his teeth, but after that, Maria became his prey. He used Estrada to lure her to the same shipping container she tried to catch him in so he could get her off his back once and for all. But it wasn't just because Maria was targeting him. When she started to interrogate his sister Deb and investigate her involvement in the Travis Marshall case, Dexter saw no choice but to take her out to protect both of them. He was fully prepared to kill Maria when she arrived at the shipping yard that night, but Deb intervened. Deborah knew that Dexter was planning something when neither he nor LaGuerta showed up to Sergeant Batista's New Year's Eve party. She tracked Maria's location to the cargo container and showed up, meaning to save her from Dexter. But in the end, it was Deb who would kill Maria LaGuerta. Deb caught Dexter in the act of preparing to kill Maria and begged him not to. In that time, Maria woke up from the M99 she'd been injected with and screamed for Deb to put Dexter down.
You have to end this. Shoot him.
But unfortunately for Maria, Deborah loved Dexter beyond any reason, so when it came down to it, she shot Maria instead of Dexter, killing her on the spot. Although it was Deb who killed Maria, Dexter was about to do the very same thing. That would have been as far outside of Harry's code as possible. Dexter always tried to adhere to the code as strictly as possible, but as the series began to reach an end, he was going off the rails. He already killed a few people without properly vetting them, innocent people including Jonathan Farrow, and a man who simply frustrated him after Rita's death. Now he was gearing up to kill a police captain who was a staple of the community. More and more, Dexter was going against the code, performing kills that no one, even with the most lax moral code, could justify. In a way, Maria was still Dexter's victim because she would have been alive if he hadn't put Deborah in such a compromising situation. Dexter was losing himself, and Maria would not be his last innocent victim. After the conclusion of the original series, which ended with Dexter faking his own death and settling in Oregon as a lumberjack, New Blood found him starting a new fake life in Iron Lake, a small town in the outskirts of New York. There he had assumed a false identity, going under the name Jim Lindsay and taking on a job at a local fish and tackle shop in town. Dexter made the decision to abandon his son Harrison and his partner Hannah McKay, thinking that his involvement in their lives would only endanger them both. Harrison was left to be raised by Hannah in Argentina, but she died of pancreatic cancer when he was only 13. After that, he found a letter that Dexter had sent to Hannah after he was supposed to have died. From then on, Harrison became determined to find his father after all those years. He tracked Dexter down and found his new home in Iron Lake. He broke into Dexter's house and tried to reunite with his dad, but Dexter sent Harrison away, still afraid to get too close to him. But eventually, Dexter came around to the idea that he needed to be in Harrison's life and brought him home. Harrison enrolled in school in Iron Lake and started developing relationships with the people in the town. One of those people was Officer Logan, a local cop and also the coach of the wrestling team at his high school. Harrison joined the wrestling team, and that is when he began bonding with Logan more deeply. Meanwhile, the police chief of Iron Lake, Angela Bishop, was investigating Dexter. Even though they were in a relationship, Angela began to suspect that Jim was actually a killer, and eventually she was convinced that he was the true Bay Harbor Butcher, not James Dokes. She brought Dexter in and interrogated him, after which he was finally locked away for the first time in his life. While he was in jail, Dexter became very desperate. He had just gotten his son back, and now he was afraid that he would lose him again. Dexter wasn't willing to let that happen. In a split moment, Dexter devised a plan to escape. He called out to Officer Logan to ask him for water.
Hey, Logan, can I get some water?
Feigning a dry mouth after the lengthy interrogation with Angela. Logan fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. He brought Dexter a bottle of water, and as soon as he was in arm's reach, Dexter grabbed him, slammed his head into the bars, and put him in a chokehold. He demanded that Logan give him the keys so he could go free, but Logan was a noble cop. Instead of handing the keys over, Logan reached for his gun, even as Dexter begged him not to. Logan tried to shoot Dexter in a final attempt to get away, but Dexter was quicker, and Logan's shot missed. Dexter snapped Logan's neck and let him slump to the floor before stealing his keys and fleeing the jail. In that instance, Dexter went against the code completely. There was almost no one more wholesome and innocent than Logan. He was a police officer, a high school athletics coach, and there was no evidence that he had ever killed anyone, not even in the line of duty. Dexter killed him simply for his own convenience. He killed Logan just so he could get back to Harrison and avoid prosecution for his crimes in both Iron Lake and Miami. Normally, Dexter would not kill someone like Logan. He couldn't even bring himself to kill Dokes, who he knew was a killer and posed a much larger threat to his life than Logan ever could. Now he was killing with impunity, even if it meant alienating himself from his own son, the person he claimed to be doing it for. Dexter got away and met up with Harrison, but he was covered in Logan's blood. Harrison put the pieces together and realized that Dexter had killed Logan, but he didn't understand why. He confronted his father about all the things he'd done. Harrison believed then that there was no justification for Dexter's actions and demanded that his father take accountability. Initially, Dexter intended to run away from Iron Lake with Harrison and start yet another fake life in another city far away, but Harrison refused to go with him after realizing what Dexter had done. So Dexter tried to run away without Harrison. He was actually going to leave Harrison alone again to save himself. He claimed to care about Harrison, he claimed to need him, but when it came down to it, he was prepared to abandon him again just to save his own skin after murdering an innocent man. The Dexter we initially met, the one who cared about his family and vowed to never kill an innocent, was completely gone by the end of New Blood. He didn't care about either of those things anymore. He only cared about himself and staying out of prison, and was even willing to kill innocent people to do so. It will be interesting to see if Dexter can redeem himself in the new Resurrection series, but as it stands currently, killing Coach Logan and attempting to abandon Harrison a second time is the most jarring example of Dexter breaking character. He has left us all wondering, who is Dexter Morgan, really?